student. And as we continue to adopt digital resources as well, she's a key player in helping us ensure that the implementation of those new curriculum resources and digital tools that support those resources are implemented with the support of the library media specialists, which we call our innovation specialists in the building. And we have, in our 20 buildings, we have 17 innovation specialists. And Shelley does a wonderful job of coordinating our library media specialists and continuing to help them carry out our long-range library services plan. So I'd like to introduce Shelley Gard to you tonight as she presents the plan.
Thank you. Good evening. As Allison mentioned, that the state requires that we have a long-range plan. It was time to refresh ours, and the state recommends that we use a framework, future-ready libraries, so that any of the services that we provide for students, staff, and the community are really focused on things that help our stakeholders think about the future. And so I've developed the entire plan in collaboration with Beth Clark, one of the CISA 2 colleagues that we work with quite regularly. So Beth and I drafted this plan, and hopefully the presentation that I have and then the plan that you have in your packet are acceptable to move forward. And this is a new presentation tool to me. What's that? Oh, this isn't it. Ha, just kidding. That's why it didn't move. Do you want me to just click the screen itself? Sure.
It should be.
Is it? What button did you hit? Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So as you can see, the plan consists of several different portions of a wheel, where really at the center is learner-centered for students with a high focus on literacy. So I'm going to just basically go through, the plan is quite extensive, and looking at all of the different things that would say a library is helping their stakeholders be future ready if they do all of these things. And because this is a cycling plan, we've kind of been around this wheel more than once. And what I've done, instead of go through all 14 pages, is I've prepared some slides that show you of all of the things that we work toward. Here are some things that we're feeling pretty good about right now, and then here are some areas that we want to grow. And quite often that's a revisit to those. It's not the first time we've considered any of those pieces. As Allison mentioned, it's required by state statute. Ultimately, this approved plan is what enables us to receive Wisconsin Common School funds. If you're not familiar with Common School funds, it's allocated by the annual census, and then those funds are sent out, provided we have an approved plan, and then they're distributed. And the way that we manage those distributions is essentially I take off the top what the entire team agrees that we need for all students, and then I allocate the remaining as however much per pupil based on the number of students in any given building. And then of course I support them in making some of their selections. And then also, because not every one of us has a library license and has expertise, well, they all have a level of expertise, but certified in the Wisconsin School Funds, I approve every one of our purchases. So it's a big chunk of money. Generally, I spend about 45%, as I mentioned, on district-wide resources, making sure that we have things accessible to all students. Generally, about 55% is allocated at that per pupil rate. And once it hit the schools, on average, they spend about 50% on print and digital books and literacy types of tools, and about 50% on any level of interactive and collaborative materials. And that's, like Allison mentioned, we renamed our role quite some time ago as Innovative Learning Specialists, because we don't just do the library management, we're also looking at ways that we can integrate technology into the classrooms and support students and staff with that. So the chart below, yes?
May I interrupt?
Please.
At the bottom of this slide, I see a growth in
Yes.
the amount of money.
That's correct.
Can you explain that to me? Usually state funding doesn't grow.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, I know, and we're just always so happy to see that. So like many of the different budget cycles that you face, we have to go with a projected allocation to begin with, right? And then the state comes back around in January and says, oh, we were close, but here's another 60,000, which is not uncommon. So common school funds come from a large, the state four founders set aside money, and it could be anything from like search and seizure, unclaimed properties, traffic tickets, you name it. And there are a lot of different public services that receive money from this. Yeah, exactly, right? Yeah, and so the foundation of that, we don't spend what was taken in search and seizure, et cetera, but that all goes into a pot of money that the state legislatures manage, and then there's a percentage of that that, say, for example, goes out to fire and safety, and there's a percentage that goes to public school libraries or any school libraries. Technically, we support the private schools as well. So then whatever allocations we get come based on our population. So of course, Janesville rates pretty high, but what we've seen over time is they're very good at investing, thankfully, and so those funds have raised over time because really what they're taking off is the interest gained each year. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you.
Sure. And yeah, this actually, like this most recent year, the projection is $760,000 to Janesville.
Thank you.
You bet. So this long-range plan has a number of requirements. Obviously, it needs board approval. That's why I'm here this evening. That designated licensed library media specialist. Some of our team members are licensed, some of us are not. I certainly am, of course. We're looking at everything. We can't purchase things for facilities, but we're looking at a balanced collection that's going to accurately and unbiasedly depict our cultural diversity, which we've been spending a lot of quality time on most recently. And then also providing whatever services we can offer. And again, that's in accordance with state administrative license code. Allison already mentioned that we have 17 innovative learning specialists covering the 20 schools. We focus on the curation and management, of course, of the different things that we not only purchase, but then want to use to turn around and help meet our learning targets. We're working really hard to enrich the learning experiences and stay tightly aligned to district goals. So you're going to see as I talk through this, and in the different pieces that I mentioned, it's going to, oh, you talked about that already, because those really are the things we're trying to hit very hard. Where are we at with literacy? What can we do with our STEM resources to support students in their mathematical thinking? So when we take a look at learner-centered, for ease and for getting through this with expediency, I highlighted just one of each. And I also paraphrase the rest. The document itself is quite lengthy, but just for sake of moving through this, where we feel we're really strong right now in our learner-centered focus is working on fostering that safe and inclusive learning environment. All kids are welcome in our spaces. All kids are going to find resources that they have access to and that hopefully reflect who they are as a learner, not only at their skill set, but also culturally, that they find materials that look and feel a lot like the cultures and the families and the different places that they come from and represent. One of the things that we want to, and we're getting tighter on this, is a primary goal that we're going to focus on in the coming year is conducting regular needs assessments to better understand staff and students. The resource that we have now has upgraded to a point that we can do a collection analysis. So what we're doing is we're taking our collection analysis and saying, what does this show, whether it be about populations of race or different things like that, reading levels, things that are too old, right? And then we take that collection analysis and we compare it with the state report of our populations and our buildings that we serve to try to bring that more and more into an even proportion so that we don't have a whole bunch of books, like we're not over-representing one group while not acknowledging another. That's been a fun project. It's been a little enlightening in seeing how many books that we've hung on to probably for way too long. So, as collaborative leadership, we work very closely with, Allison and Chris and I work very closely with where are we with our strategic goals for the district. And then I lead my team to make sure, along with them working with their academic learning coach and their principals and others who are doing their school. So we're working on the DIP, right? And our portion of that district improvement plan. And then we work for that tight alignment so that my team members are working on things. What are their school goals? And then are the resources that they're purchasing, are the lessons that they're offering and the co-teaching that they do, does that align with the school plans as well? One of the things that we would like to grow in, and this just at times becomes a capacity issue, whether it's time to find common prep and different things. And I will say that the SAIL work that we're doing and the PLC time that we're getting to spend is helping this tremendously, but something we want to continue to grow is that culture of collaboration where the innovation specialist can be part of cross-functional teams, and so that they can sit down with the academic learning coach and building leadership and whomever and say, really, who are the students that we want to focus on? What are our largest skill gaps? And what is it that we can do as colleagues to support those? Of course, as library representatives, we are always focusing on literacy. One of the things that we've been doing more recently is integrating science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. We refer to that as acronym as STEAM. And we're bringing those into the library, not just in the lessons that we do or the activities or the resources that we have available, but also in the literacy collection as well. So we're trying to really provide a wraparound service. What we're very pleased with that is oftentimes, again, because of that Common School Fund that you've seen is growing pretty rapidly and regularly, is we can purchase the stuff, the tangibles and things like that, that either might be too expensive to have one in every classroom, but we can have it in the library accessible to all. And quite often they're too large. So if you imagine we have like fish tanks with hydroponics and all different things happening in our schools or a weather station, a classroom doesn't have room for that. But we have resources in our spaces that we can look at, read about, write about, and observe that kids come and visit instead of thinking that we're going to put one in every learning space. The other thing, and again, it's not different from the slide before. What's our goal? Increasing that collaboration, because we really want to make sure that we're not running tangentially, like we think this is cool and kids are going to love it, if it's not standards aligned. So it's something that we've been focusing on really heavily and look forward to continuing to do. As far as, this is going to sound familiar, right? As far as curriculum and instruction, making sure that our digital resources support our learning objectives and enhancing those instructional materials. And by digital resources, I think you saw that I mentioned in that earliest slide that we spend about 45% of those common school funds. That's on digital things. That's on everything from the collection and library to the Discovery Ed that we offer that offers news and classroom videos to Grammarly, you name it. All of those things that we make accessible online, because yes, we can check out books and we do regularly, but we want to make sure that the things that students have available to them, being one-to-one, are available to them whenever they have access to their device. And then what we want to continue to work on, of course, is that tight collaboration, really analyzing, and again, the SAIL work and different things like that. Now that we're hitting a point where we have reliable and accessible data, and by accessible, I mean a teacher can look and see how things are going. I trust there have been presentations on that already. But now we really can look and say, rather than what does my gut tell me that these kids should be learning, we can look and see, okay, yes, that's true, those are all standards aligned, but what areas are we missing in our universals? So where can we bolster some of those universals by bringing in, whether it's an enriching activity or more resources to support what's already available in the curriculum? On the professional learning end, we are, in fact, I just today finished registering half of the team for a conference coming up in December. So we're constantly looking for different ways that we can learn, specifically on that technology side, because it's changing so rapidly. So I think every session that I signed up for in the December session relates to AI and how we can safely and effectively use AI to support identifying learning gaps, filling in some of those things, leading a team. Because I lead, right? I'm not going to do the teaching things, but a good number of my team members are looking at how do they co-teach and support their colleagues with that. And then another goal then, of course, is to be providing online support or ongoing support as we implement new things. And if you ever open up the catalog and take a look at what we have available in My Learning Plan, you're going to find quite a few things. Frontline, sorry, that's an old phrase, My Learning Plan. But you're going to see quite a few things that are related to the different digital tools that we purchase and how teachers can get PD hours by attending different sessions on vocabulary or you name it. So, robust infrastructure, this is something I work much more closely with Brian on. And so developing a comprehensive digital access plan that not only makes sure the device availability and the connectivity, but also that the features serve all of our students, that all of our students have equal opportunity and staff members as well, and that those tools are safe. And that's actually what I highlighted down below, collaborating with the digital resources so that not only that we have them, but that people know how to use them. If you've been around since the Studer days, you know that was, do you have the tools you need? I often will tell people, my role is, do you have the tools? Are they working, or do we need to adjust some things? And then do you know how to use them, right? Because you can have all kinds of things at your disposal, but if you don't know how to use them to leverage instruction, that wasn't a good way to spend our money. So that's one big thing that we work on very, very strongly. Budgeting, we talked quite a bit about that already. So really looking at that balanced inventory of the types of things that we offer, and are we working toward the different skill gaps and district goals, and then promoting that awareness. And the promoting that awareness, again, is where we put things in My Learning Plan, like, hey, come and learn about this tool, spend an hour, get started on some things so you can turn around and use it in your classroom. And then community partnerships. This is something we're very proud of what we are doing. Would love to grow that even more. It's actually starting this week. Hedberg is going to be visiting every first grader, talking to them about what's available at Hedberg, how they or their family can get a library card. We do the summer reading program. We work very tightly with Hedberg. We'd love to grow that and work more with other organizations. But really the goal here is to look at how do we partner with either early literacy, Hedberg, and others. What we'd really like to do is see if there's a way that we can offer programs and workshops in our spaces for parents. And I'm thinking of things like helping, running and even if it were here, running a session about how do you know your kids are safe online, and bringing people in. And then also offering it so that our people who maybe don't speak English fluently could still understand that same content, and how if we hand our child a smartphone, some of the things that we need to be aware of. So that's a huge goal of ours. And really figuring out how to kind of be that wraparound service is something that we've been scratching our heads on for a bit, so others may have some suggestions for us. Where we work closely with that already is the FRCs. FRCs and schools have those family events, and quite often we'll do digital citizenship or STEM night or something like that. And then advocating, obviously, for student privacy or data privacy, that's constant. That's critical for us. It's not uncommon for people to ask for different tools and resources, and can I buy this, or can you unblock that site? And we have a short form and a procedure in place where we look to see there may not be anything outwardly wrong with the resource, but they don't confirm for us that they're not going to capture and spread student data. So we kind of have that stopgap in there, and my goal is to establish a much stronger one. As you all know, it's getting wild out there, and we're susceptible in so many ways. Now with Brian on board, he's talked about taking it from a technology lens to be able to look as a tech director and say, this is safe, this is okay, versus us looking at, is it good for the learners, and do they give us the surface level promises? So that's a big thing that we're going to be working on in the coming year or so. Collaborative spaces, we do our best to design welcoming spaces. One thing, as all grants come with strings attached, we cannot buy furniture, so we're doing our best with what we have. Common school funds do not allow us to buy even shelving, believe it or not, for the books that we're buying. So we can buy the cool stuff and the great books, but we can't buy furniture, and so that's one of the things that we've been trying to get real creative. And if you walk into some schools that look like they've been recently updated, it's probably because a principal had a vision and some funds to be able to support that. And then, of course, continually revisiting that. How are we doing on that? How might we reconfigure, redesign? A big thing in redesign that our elementary schools are doing right now, if they haven't finished it already, is many of them are redesigning their early reader, excuse me, nonfiction sections. So that as we're working on those literacy gaps, we're setting books in a way that are very accessible for our 1, 2, 3, not year-olds, first, second, and third graders to go get some nonfiction instead of it being buried somewhere else. So they're very proud of that work. Do you have questions?
Well, I have some comments first before we.
She's fast.
This is an amazing update to see.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Really great. You do a great job.
Oh, thank you.
So knowledgeable. Thanks for coming here.
You're very welcome. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. I just have a couple of things that come to mind as, you know, we know and we've talked a lot about different literacy initiatives
Yes.
throughout the district. And I'm wondering, and I'm looking at Allison to have our innovation specialists, have they gone through any of the AIM training as well? Would that be of benefit to them?
Do you,
Yeah, they're not part of what's required in Act 20 to take the AIM training, so it could be something that benefits them in the future. Our first goal was to get everyone who is required
Yeah.
trained.
Yeah, of
So,
course. Thanks for doing that.
yeah,
Now-
yes.
they all are from the classroom. So they all were teachers, and they were highly effective teachers, which is how we brought them onto
Yeah.
the team. And generally, what we rely on then is our colleagues who are doing that training and the screening, and then also today, you may or may not be talking about the PD that happened today, or maybe that's already been shared. But today, our elementary team members were in 4th and 5th grade classes with those team members, talking about where are our skill gaps, what are some things we can do, so that they can listen and think through, because we have so many resources that the teachers may not know about.
Right.
And our focus really is, how do we not take over a universal, but how do we come alongside and enhance that? And then while they were doing that, I was working with the middle school team to look at how do we use Reading Olympics to really foster a love of literacy. And, you know, you can kind of trick them into learning, but we chose some amazing books, and we're really excited about a year-long program for 6 through 8 as well.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah, I was thinking about, you know, as so much of this is aligning with strategic plan and the work then that they're doing, if we're picking materials, it just
Yeah.
would, if that's the primary training that we're really, I just thought that might be interesting. Not that I'm wanting to push more training
No,
on
it's-
anyone.
We're just
so don't
trying really
blame me.
hard. What we're trying to do is that handoff.
Yeah.
Like, where do those who are doing the screening and things, where can they turn around and tell us some areas that, and they're also the ones, of course, who are using the day-to-day universal resources.
Yeah.
And they can tell us, like, yeah, this one's a little flat, what do we have that could help kids be more excited about or
Thanks.
conceptualize?
Yeah, and we do have more of the innovation special, or the teachers that will go to the innovation specialist and say, as a result of this training, we need more decodable readers in
Right.
our
Yep.
1-2 selection, or more, you know, things on,
Yep, absolutely.
yeah, different topics. So they definitely help build the collection that's aligned to
Okay.
our science of reading.
And it's not uncommon either for Allison and I to sit down and say, here are some areas, let's get some books, and then buy them for all 12 schools on a common
Awesome.
school.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
And then the next question, this is just the last one I had.
Sure.
And I know that there was a focus to start getting back to having one innovation specialist per school
Mm-hmm.
instead of sharing. And I am aware that all but 2 schools have a
That's correct.
full-time. So what progress are we making on getting there? Because I know that is something that gets brought up, and obviously if our goal as a district is to improve all things literacy, because that is one of our top goals, and this person is the go-to, you know, a major support for getting materials and support for our readers. I'm just curious about, you know, are we thinking about how we can move to finishing that? Just hint,
Well, I'm
hint.
thinking about it. I don't think I have more to say than I dream of it. I dream of it.
Hint. I know that there's a referendum soon, but anyway.
Timely on election.
Timely,
eve.
yeah.
On election.
So that just, I am sharing my support of seeing that happen, I think. And I have seen professionals move from having spoken to professionals who have shared schools and then now are in one school, and what a difference it makes for them as a professional, but also for their school. And anytime I think we are improving the consistency of our quality skilled professionals in our environment, so our students have reliable people that they're seeing on a regular basis, it's really great for our kids, and also it's great for maintaining employees' stability and keeping jobs. So anyway,
I agree.
that's just something I wanted. That's been on my
Appreciate
mind
that.
to bring up, and this was the perfect time to bring it up. So I guess we need to vote if there aren't any other questions or comments. Okay, all in favor of moving this to the full board? Or do we need a second? Because you. Okay, you second. All right. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, motion passes. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, presentation on strategic plan for athletics and activities. Jim McClowery, welcome.
How does this work? Here you go, Spot.
Down is-
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Appreciate being here. Just real quick, I have 4 children, and they're all in their 20s. 3 of them are in college. My daughter took a job, her first professional job in July. She's a college track coach over at Loras College in Dubuque. And my 2 sons, who are twins, one goes to Eau Claire, he's a track athlete. The other one goes to Wheaton College, he's a baseball athlete. And the conversation I had with my sons recently is they both want to be athletic directors, one at the high school level, one at the college level. And I've encouraged all my kids to follow their passion, and this is where their passion is. And they've had an opportunity to have some really good experiences in their life through athletics and activities, and they want to continue to make that part of their lives. And I feel blessed and humbled by that from my kids. And that's the experience we want all of our kids to have. We want them to find something, whether it's an athletic experience or an activity or a club or whatever it is, a job, whatever it is, we want them to find something they connect with and have passion about. So thank you for letting me tell you about my kids for a moment, but let's talk about our kids here in Janesville. Let's talk a little bit about our coaching staff, and let's talk just a little bit about some of the things we're working on. I think there's a balance between some of the things I'm talking about today. There's probably some things that are interesting, and there's other things that probably nobody but me finds interesting. But learning how the sausage factory works, I think, is important for us. So I'll do my best to balance that a little bit. So thank you for taking a look at the presentation I put together, and I'll probably be brief on some of these slides here. But when we started our work as an athletic director team about 30 months ago or so, we just had an opportunity to reimagine. What are we trying to do here? What are we trying to accomplish? What are our goals? What is the true north that we're trying to follow? So this is a process we went through, the 2 high school athletic directors and the 3 middle school athletic directors over meetings over several months to kind of create the direction for our overall plan. So again, some infrastructure things, some long and short-term plans. We had an opportunity to rediscover our mission, and I think it's worth saying again, even though we don't have our final words yet, the things that we value in our mission is how do we create an education-based program for our kiddos, whether it's clubs or sports. How do we position them for a pathway for success through the opportunities that they have as athletes and club members and teammates. And how do we maximize student engagement? How do we create opportunities to have more kids participate? As we know, when kids are involved and connected with their school, almost everything about their life improves immensely. So again, just aligning ourselves with everything that we do. It's what are we trying to do? How does it align with our mission and our goals? So that's how we make our decisions in the athletic and activities department. We have about 12 goals that we always go to whenever, again, we're making decisions. Just to point out a few, the decision that we're making, how does it increase opportunities for our students? How does it get more kids involved? Another one is, what are the best practices for education-based athletics? And so we want to continue to if it's something that works in a classroom, if it's tied to pedagogy, if it's best practices for kids motivation-wise, those are the things that we want to use as far as our tools to help our coaches lead our kids. And then we're looking for a lot of opportunities to build systemic programming between our middle school and high school, and that goes into our youth programs and our community-based programs as well. So we're spending a lot of time being very intentional about bringing those pieces together. So these are our 12-ish goals that help drive all the decisions that we make. I want to talk just a little bit about some of our wins real quick here. You know, our process wins, going back to being systemic. So we've started, we do our winter AD retreat with the 5 athletic directors and myself, and we do a 360 evaluation of our entire district as far as our offerings, how we lead kids, how we lead coaches, how we hire coaches, where we put our resources. So we continue to do that very aggressively, and it absolutely shapes our immediate and our long-term our future. So some of the things born out of this is our updated athletics and activities code of conduct, because we've become athletics and activities. Our high school athletic directors and middle school athletic directors are part of their national and state associations, and they are active members. We have a workshop coming up this weekend, a 3-day workshop coming up in the Dells that they're all part of. We've updated our coaches and advisors handbook again, coaches and advisors, and we're looking for continued processes to improve registration and make that as user-friendly and easy for our families. So just a couple nuggets. A couple of other wins, processes. Something we think we are on our way to doing well as any school district is providing a professional development opportunity that we've expanded for coaches, but we've expanded for advisors as well. We are one part of the 4% of school districts that provide a very intentional and aggressive professional development for our coaches. So we're in year 3 of that. Some of our other thoughts are things that we're doing. Our coach internship program. We had an opportunity to increase stipends for our coaches, our coach mentorship program. And so one of the things we're doing here is trying to invest in our coaches, giving them the best opportunity to be successful, leading our students. We're always working and thinking about succession planning, and we have used different parts of a growth and evaluation tool for our coaches and advisors, and we're launching one that we think is going to be the universal model that we're going to be using. So we've already started launching that at our high schools this winter. Few other things we just wanted to talk about. Again, just real briefly, we do have a process when we hire coaches, and this is our process, and we have had an opportunity over the last 24 months to put this into play. And obviously it depends how many people you get that apply for a position. So 4 and 5 there, you might have a first and second round depending on the amount of people, but we feel like this is a best process for us. And we do feel like many districts, we need to recruit. Don't just put it out there. You have to actively recruit coaches. So that is part of our process. And we did want to share with you, just real quick, this is what we desire, but every school district desires this. We'd love to have a 15-year veteran who can teach, who's had success in the sport that we're hiring for. This is quite often not what we get, but it's where we want to start. And we know that we need to work to build people like this and also continue to become an athletic program where we might be able to attract folks like this as well. So anyways, that's our profiles. We're looking for coaches. A few things I wanted to mention here that are worth pointing out. You know, we are probably right there in the trend of most multi-high school districts. What this shows, the top, is that, you know what, we have about 2/3 of our coaches that are not educators, that are not in our buildings. So we miss out on some opportunities to have those connections with kids, okay, to be that go-to person, to invite kids to be out and part of programming, but we're trying to find ways to circumvent that. We're excited that the balance between our female coaches and male coaches, we took a step forward this year. Both of our high school coaches for girls basketball are females, and we think that's an important balance for us, to put females in front of our girls as much as we possibly can. But I did want to point out with our head coaches, again, how many out of the building, and it just gives us some challenges. What also gives us some challenges, the number of first and second year coaches that we have. So again, going back to succession planning, mentorship, internships, evaluation, recruiting coaches, you know, we're not unlike a lot of other schools, but we do think that that's a challenge. We got to find ways to continue to educate our coaches, and again, especially those who are not educators. I do want to say this about our coaches: they work extremely hard. They take good care of our kids. Many of them are some of the best coaches around, and many of them have the potential to be the best coaches around. So we're putting a lot in trying to invest in their growth and try to be extremely intentional about it. I think Ben and Clayton at their schools do about as well as any athletic director I've been around in supporting and lifting up their staff. They do it very well, very intentionally, and they're very proactive with their leading their coaching staffs. Just talking a little bit about just kind of related to our programming, and then I want to talk about our kids a little bit. This is just some of the things over the last 16 months or so that's been born out of some of the work that we've been done, expanding our middle school offerings, our mini seasons, systemic relationships. We've been intentional about the girls and boys basketball, cross country, dance and cheer, and football, and we want to continue to expand to some of our other sports as well. Introducing dance and cheer at the middle school level, cross country, flag football, and then of course high school lacrosse. We've increased participation across the board in all of our schools in our activities, and we've been very intentional about doing that. So let's just catch that a little bit here while we just have a couple more minutes. So what's the story here? The top two graphs are telling us, okay, so how many multi-sport, how many slots do students occupy? So for example, last school year, Craig, 851 slots were occupied throughout athletics. But when you go down to the bottom left, 23-24 school year, of those 851 students, slots, 599 were the original student, meaning that we had, out of those 599, some of those were multi-sport athletes. So, we're looking at the percentage of our students that are involved, and it's been awesome to see an uptick at our schools. We're trying to be extremely intentional about that as well. Again, how do we get more kids involved? And so again, going to that systemic planning with our middle schools. Looking at the middle school as well, really what I want to just point out here is by adding our mini seasons, our hypothesis was that we'd have a student increase. So if you look at the bottom graph here, it's really from the 2022-23 to the 23-24 school year. That's where you see the big jump, because it was last fall when we introduced those mini seasons. And again, our mindset is, how do we get kids plugged in, particularly at 6th grade, particularly at 9th grade? And we know that when they come into a new building, a new environment, connecting them right away in the fall absolutely matters to their success. So we've been trying to be very intentional about that. So this school year, maybe it didn't look like there was as big of a jump in our numbers from last year, but it's because we made such a big jump last year. And we're continuing to try to find opportunities to expand what we do at the middle school level as it makes sense. So probably just a couple of other things here. We have gone to the digital ticketing. We have just installed our huddle cameras. We're getting our live stream cameras, NFHS live stream cameras, so that we can live stream all of our games in our gymnasiums. So that's exciting for us. We did infinite campus registration this year for athletics, and we're going to keep trying to find ways to do better customer service for our families in that regard. Again, just some other things we're working on here, a facility maintenance projects and program. We're trying to put that in place. It's something we really haven't had very intentionally, so we're working on that. I don't know if you folks are aware, but we do game management training, and we did our winter training last Monday, and what are we doing? We're training our 35+ staff that work our athletic events on the safety of our fans, the safety of our kids, the overall safety of the environment, and we do any kind of drill you would do to prepare people in a school for any kind of crisis that might go on. We do that same kind of training for our after-hours staff as well. So again, just want to point this out to folks. Some of our planning is, again, these are all the fields that we need to take care of. 25 tennis courts, 14 auxiliary fields, 14 softball, baseball fields. We rent one of those. ADA compliance at all of our fields. How do we take care of Monterey? We don't have on-campus varsity facilities for some of these sports. So these are all part of our planning as we're thinking about how we can do things better as a department. So again, just kind of describing that water a little bit there. And just think it's worth pointing out is we do a lot of our competitive intelligence as well. What are the other districts around us doing? You know, all of the other 8 schools in the Big 8 have made significant investments through referendum and other ways toward their facilities. And so, and our thought is we don't have to be like them, but what does relative competitiveness look like here? What are they doing? How can we move in that direction? And just a few other things, even though they're not Big 8, Milton, Edgerton, Elkhorn, Bigfoot, Delavan, Clinton have also made intentional decisions about how they're spending money on facilities. So, all right, so just a strategic plan. This is where we're at. These are the things. We're looking for opportunities again. How do we take care of what we have before we start asking for this and this and this? So we want to do a great job in this regard. We want to look at student participation. So now that we've taken on activities as well, we need to create and establish the benchmark for that. We want at least 50% of our students involved in something. And then as the years go on, we can build from there. But we think that after this school year, we will have a much better benchmark between the two, athletics and activities. We are trying to develop a master plan, and we feel like we've made some good headway, and so we're looking forward to taking the next step with an athletic and PE master plan for the high schools. And we are also looking to create opportunities for partnership donors, how they can supplement the investment that our school district makes on facilities. And then, you know, we feel very strong about this is we want our high school campuses to be the place where our kids have an opportunity to grow up and their families have an opportunity to invest. That includes our middle school communities being able to do that on their west and east side as well. So that's kind of our broad stroke, but there's 100 tentacles that come off each of those. So, all right, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to share a fraction of all the things we're doing.
Thank you for the presentation. Just maybe one consideration, since this PowerPoint document is available to the public. It's just a pet peeve of mine, so just bear with me. All the alphabet soup. So when someone's going through this and they don't understand what HC means or AD, just for the regular community that goes through some of those links.
Thank you.
They don't necessarily know. I mean, you have a lot on each slide, so I don't know how you're gonna get more words on that, but if you could spell out what those acronyms are, I think that would be helpful for the community members.
That's right, and I cut it down by like 50 slides, so yes,
I know, it's
thank
a
you.
challenge, but I'm just,
Yeah, I appreciate that,
it's,
thank you.
yeah, you're welcome.
This is great. I am really passionate about activities and athletics, and my kids are all involved. And so I see how they define I have a senior, and these activities have literally defined their experience through our district. And they bring families together, they bring communities together, friendships are built, so the work you're doing is really meaningful. I have seen very big changes. I think coming back to, I grew up here, it was really nice to hear about your kids. I think that's the first time maybe we've heard about them, so that was great. Thanks for sharing that with us. My husband and I went to school here, and coming back with kids, there's a lot of things that hadn't changed. They're like, oh, this is exactly the same it was years ago. It's really nice to see some of these ticketing changes, and as we now are using Monterey as parents and then with grandparents, how each year there's an evolution because we're seeing some of the practices that had been ongoing are really not serving our community as well. So thanks for working on these things. I just have a few comments as I'm looking at this because all of this, like I live through these things with my kids. So one thing as the district, we spoke about how some of our paraprofessionals find weekend very hard to find information. I'm wondering if challenges, I know that you're doing other things to recruit coaches, but weekend is hard because I think the average person just looking for a job may not necessarily know to go to weekend. So the more you can get it out, I can think of one particular coach that was not considering coaching, but it was a personal recruitment opportunity that made them consider, oh, yeah, I can do that. So they wouldn't have been searching for it. So I think the more we can get out just public facing, the better. So know that people do say that we can is not the, you know, I know it's kind of one of the things, it's like the standard that we kind of have to do, but you know, we hear bad things about it just from the user, the new prospective employee side. Anyway, and then along that, as we're talking about building these coaches and what we're desiring, another topic that these people hear me talk about a lot is how we can grow our own. We're really good in education to provide all of these youth apprenticeship opportunities to all of these other industries. Not so great for our own industry. And there are likely some amazing athletes that we could start communicating early with them. You'd be a great coach. Would you consider looking at this and coming back to your own community and coaching here? I think sometimes people, and I know I am an example of this, never dream of something until someone plants a seed. And because someone sees a potential that they didn't realize was there, they now have their eyes open. So I'd like to see us consider, you know, how we can be looking at our youth athletes and how we can expand and grow and train maybe from a young age up so that we are having this great succession plan from within our own. So anyway, that was just another little comment that I had. And then one last thing about middle school, and I know that it's challenging because there's a lot going on with all the scheduling, but one little catch that we experience and we're kind of dealing with is that some of the middle school sports are not aligning with what the high school seasons are. And I'm sure that there are challenges in getting people signed up, especially on the coaching side, but I think the more we can do that, the better likelihood we will see the development of those student athletes from middle school and then continuing into high school, because I can just think of like soccer and track for boys. I might know someone who's interested in both of those things, but at the middle level, they're the same season. At the high school, they're not. And so we are not doing a great job of developing both a boys track, you know, athlete and a soccer athlete here. They can get it other places, but if we're offering it the same, but there's separate seasons later on, that there's not a great continuation. That's just something I've experienced. So anyway, I thought I'd mention it to you. I'm sure I could just go on and on, but I'm gonna stop there. This is wonderful. This was so exciting. I just realized I have one more thing to say. When you highlight some of these communities that have invested in their athletic facilities, because I have student athletes and we travel all around, I have seen so many amazing community athletic facilities, and boy, it's eye-opening. And boy, I'd love to see some of that happening here. So that is something that I would just really encourage, that program development, and let's get moving on it. So.
You can help me.
All right, I know.
You know?
You just heard me say, let's
Yeah.
get moving on it. You know
All
it.
right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We really appreciate this. We'd love to have you come back again. Thanks for sharing your info with us.
Thank you.
Well, I was just going to say
Sorry, Kathy.
how much I appreciate the goal of, of getting more than 50%. Obviously, I'd like to see every kid involved in some activity. There should be a place for every kid, that enters our building. And it'll improve attendance, it'll improve academics, it'll improve the culture in the building, and less disciplinary issues. It is just, there's just nothing but good things that happen when kids are involved in their school. So thank you so much for that goal.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to staffing assumptions. Mr. Garner.
Good evening. Hey, it's much like many of you are putting away your your Halloween decorations. some of us in our offices and such are putting up our other holiday decorations, already planning for Christmas and Thanksgiving and other holidays. I look forward to staffing season myself, so it's between now and April. I don't have any decorations yet up, but looking forward to it. Right, exactly. So I'm here to provide you the annual notice of our assumptions that we bring to you. Then we base these assumptions into our staffing plan that I will present to you in April, the first board meeting in April. And essentially, we want to target every year the board policy, of course, but in addition to that, we've got other points. That's just point 3 of this. The assumptions really, we're asking for your understanding or informing you that we're planning to have flexibility when it comes to our transition years, specifically K-1 for our new students, and then the transition to middle school in 6th grade, and then again in high school as we look at that transition into 9th grade. We know that our achievement and the transition is difficult for kids. Then with smaller class sizes or TPR, we tend to, we say that that's a little bit better for our kids for learning. So I'm informing you of that tonight. Just understand that when we present that, it's a little bit different than what the TPR says in the policy, but we're telling you now. So if there are any questions, that's what we're asking. If you have any questions now, please ask. In addition to that, we're going to continue our staffing using the staffing formula in the high school, which Chris Mendenwald works with the building principals to create as they look at their sections based on course signups, which he'll be talking about course approvals here shortly. It all ties in. Again, that happens in February-ish or so, and then it culminates into the staffing plan presented to you in April. Ultimately, we talk then about the minutes we assign for our special classes at the elementaries. Again, flexibility in the middle school as we look at core instruction. That's one of the big things I focused on a couple of years ago. We're going to continue to do so there. Try to get as many minutes we can into the core instruction as possible, obviously while still allowing the kids to have the exploratories at their fingertips. Any questions?
I don't necessarily have a question, but I have a comment, and it relates to the staffing for our music instructors at the elementary level. And I know that this is always really challenging.
Yep.
One of the things that I have experienced having children at the same elementary school, this is our 13th year as a family, and we have seen a consistent, just constant, different music. You know, we might be lucky and have someone for 3 years. But then the next year it will be someone who's there for a year, and then maybe 2 years, and then maybe a year, and it's really hard. I have a 4th grader, and I think that individual, I mean, for sure has had 3 different music teachers in their time at the elementary school. And they're great educators, so it's not that they're leaving for other reasons, but I know some of our elementary schools have 1 music teacher. And then there are some that share between a couple of schools, and those are hard positions. They're very hard to fill, as you know.
Yes.
And that was something that I have spoken to some of our music teachers over time, and how, you know, if there is a position that's available for a school where it's 1 school and you are there, those are much more desirable positions for our narrowing our smaller group of professionals who are applicants, because we know that we just have fewer applicants than we did 20 years ago. So if we know that it's small to begin with, the best thing we can do for those programs is to hopefully have 1 music teacher per school. That would be great. I'm just giving my plug, because I have seen that fallout when there's a different music teacher. And I can think of one right now that there are 3 music teachers at that particular school, and so a music teacher might be there for 2 grades. That's challenging for getting to know children. I know that you probably all know what school I'm talking about, but just as an example, we've had the same art teacher. Our family has worked with the same teacher going on 13 years. The complete different relationship that my children have with that teacher because there has been a consistency and the opportunity to get to know our family and just meeting the needs of those students. So I think that's something that would be really amazing for our district to consider how we can open our eyes to looking at some of those positions. I know that it's funding and, you know, again, there's a referendum on a ballot tomorrow. Turn over to the backside and find those 2 questions there. But that is something that I have personally seen the challenges through the eyes of my child as a parent, and then also in terms of talking with the challenges for those professionals, and people don't want that job. That job was vacant because
Yes.
no one wanted it,
Right.
because that's a bad position to have. Not the school, but having to move around, and it's really hard to develop programming. So anyway, that was a really long rant. Thank you for staying with me. I needed to go on record because and again, this was a great time for me to bring up some of these things about staffing that have just been on my mind lately, guys. Okay.
Sure. Do you want, I can respond to some of what you said, or? Well, so it's always been, music has always been a challenge, specifically for scheduling. When I was a principal, I know that we used to schedule 9 music teachers across 12 schools. To the board's credit, then they said, we don't want our music teachers to travel so much. So then what we've done is created, we have minutes now, extra minutes in the schedule. And so as it is, you're right, it's a balance between the financial responsibility we have, you know, to make sure we are fiduciary responsible, if that makes sense, and the needs of our kids. And you're right, there is a fine balance. So to assign one music teacher to each school would be, there would be a lot of minutes there that we would have to look at for our teachers to do something with, because the number of our kids and the sections that we have within our schools don't necessarily equal full-time always, and that's why we have to monitor and manage that. Now, we have increased the amount of staffing at music over time, so it does help, but it doesn't alleviate all travel. And we do have some travel as well for our Phi Ed and our teachers as well. So it's a fine balance over time, but I understand completely what you're saying.
So we've talked about this before, because this has been a topic of concern for me for like 12 years, on and off. And I think we've done a better job about it. But are we, because I don't want teachers traveling if we can do it either. It's a waste of time, in my opinion, to have teachers traveling on the road as opposed to having some time with kids or preparing for classes. And we used to fill those minutes with RTI and that kind of thing. Are we still doing those things? We still do music teachers, or those teachers that have minutes to fill? Do we still have those offerings or abilities?
We're doing some of that. I would say that we're not doing as much, mainly because our music teachers aren't necessarily trained in doing RTI or specific reading interventions with kids or other types. Now, we are finding ways to fill those minutes. But if we did, for example, if we did 12, we assigned 12 music teachers for all 12 schools, those minutes, it would be very difficult. We'd have to find something musically to fill that time. And I just don't know as we have that in our budget as well. That's the other thing that we have to look at, so.
Okay. I also want to say that, I mean, I'm glad to see this note here about keeping TPR in kindergarten and first grade at 20 as opposed to 25. I could not imagine 25 kindergartners. It's a lot of kindergartners. And I know that it's our policy, it's like our, our stopgap or
Right.
whatever. But I'm glad to see that every effort to keep that at no more than 20.
We do our absolute best. Kindergarten's hard, it's hard to predict, because we get influx that we don't know are showing up sometimes, and like last year, we were down in kindergarten. We don't know exactly where those kids were or went, but we have to rely on our best predictions, so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate all of this.
Yeah.
All right, everyone, presentation of new course proposal. Chris Middenwalt.
Okay, good evening. We do not have a whole lot of new courses. I'm going to go through with some brief explanations of what we'll be at, but as a reminder, we are looking at courses that we won't teach for 10 more months. So the process really starts pretty quick for us looking at courses we will teach in 26, 27. We've already had some discussions about some courses. We will go through that process. It goes through departments and curriculum committees and eventually gets to you all in November. So just all three of you are well aware of that process, so we're going to keep going. So here's kind of a funky thing, survey of theater and acting. We have introduction to theater and acting now and advanced acting, and for the past however many years, we went back and we really couldn't figure out when we didn't do this. We have never run introduction to theater and acting and advanced acting in the last few years separately. We always run them both the same time and the same class period because we don't have enough students. So the staff has just requested, can we just call this survey of theater and acting, and we'll do what we've basically always been doing instead of having kids sign up for this course and then we'll run it all together. So it's really as much of anything a name change, but technically it's a new course, so we're bringing it here. Spotlight or show choir is a request to make that a class, which really does bring that in line with many high schools. Many high schools offer their show choir as a course. And if you think about it, it does align with chorus, it does align with band, that sort of thing that we offer as courses. And also at times does need to do some things outside of school. So a request for that, and it, again, many schools do this for their show choirs, offer it as a course. It really does allow for kids who are in multiple extracurriculars to also be in show choir. For those of you that have had kids in show choir in the past, it's really tough to be in something like show choir with that time commitment, and then also like be a wrestler and do that sort of thing. They don't work very well. New courses here. As somebody in this room recently talked about building our own. These are all education courses. We do plan on, right now, I'm sure you're aware that we have some early childhood courses that we've offered. We've offered these for a long time, but we would like to start offering courses in the EDU area with Blackhawk. These are all TC courses. So they're all education courses that really would lead to students who would like to pursue education beyond early childhood. And this isn't something we've really done in the past, but something we would like to do in the future. I can almost guarantee you all those courses won't run next year right away, but we do want to bring them all to you. Eventually, what we will do is we will build an education academy for basically for elementary and secondary education, and those courses will be part of that academy. Another new course, you heard me hint about this the last time I was here with Craftsman with Character. I was just in a meeting on Friday with 3 of the Craftsman folks and with Blackhawk Tech and talking about Healthcare Horizons and what that might look like. And I don't know, I'm not going to promise you it's going to be called Contemporary Healthcare Practices. It's going to be called something, but if I don't bring it to you and then I can't do it, then I'll be really disappointed in myself. And I still think we're going to pull this off. I'm really, it won't be anything on our end. It will be whether or not we have the partnerships, particularly at Mercy and SSM. And if we can get that as a guarantee, yep, we will take students and this is how many we'll take and that sort of thing. Our work with Craftsman, certainly on Friday, convinced me everything else we'll have taken care of. It's the partnerships. So we will likely have kids sign up. Even as they sign up, I don't know if we'll be sure about SSM and Mercy's commitment. Right now we have a lot of, yeah, sure, we'd be interested. I need a little more than that right now. But I really want to do this, so it's coming to you. And then last thing is a name change. So we will no longer have integrated math 4, including discrete mathematics, which is really a bummer. Now we'll have advanced algebra with discrete math. So that's just a name change, same course. And I believe that's everything. So, questions?
I do like the part, making show choir class. As someone that was in 3 choirs a day, one before, one during, and one after, and then tried to do track and basketball, it
Right.
was, you know,
Right. Yeah. And like I said, it makes sense, and it really does bring us in line with many school districts.
Yeah.
Are offering that during the day.
that's great. That's great. Thank you.
Yeah, like I'm having a mind blown moment with the Spotlighter show choir in school. That's phenomenal. That has been, my kid has a lot of friends that had to, I can't do dance team because.
Had to choose,
Like it's,
right?
and it's sad when kids when they have so many great options and they just can't do it all. This is fantastic. I think this is gonna really level the playing field for a lot of kids, so,
Sure.
I'm so excited about this.
Yeah, I would imagine it will increase our numbers in Spotlighters.
Yeah, it's really awesome. I'm looking forward to seeing that evolution. I'm assuming there aren't any removals, like this is it, right?
We did not
Okay.
do any removals. I would imagine next time I come to you at this time next year, I will have
Okay.
quite a few.
Okay.
We're gonna redo some things in a few different areas, so we'll probably have some removals.
Fantastic. These education courses. So, I have a kid who was really wanting to be in that, the first cohort, and was really sad that it didn't work out with their schedule because of band, but it's okay. The band went to 8th hour. That was the dilemma. This is great, especially the focus away from just early childhood.
Right.
I think that really is great, because there's a lot of people who are interested in education, but not necessarily early childhood. So this will be fun to watch. And I just want to mention for the healthcare horizons, I know that you need the SSM and Mercy as like the main.
Right.
But I bet there's going to be some other healthcare professionals who you can, I'm just thinking, like, reach out to us, because that would be a great field trip opportunity for students to
Right.
come and see a smaller scale healthcare facility, and it's a totally different world, but still within healthcare, so.
Absolutely. We will have we've got quite a list of people that we will reach out to once we figure that we have some things. As you're aware, we need the cornerstones, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it would be silly for us to have some type of healthcare program and not take both of the major
Right.
hospitals in our community and have them
Right.
on board.
Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully it just pans out and, stay the course, because if for some reason not now, it's a great, I think this is important work to be, offering to our kids, and I mean, it's really exciting, so, thank you.
Yeah, it's gonna be
And
great.
you
You're welcome.
had to wait all the way to the end of all of these presentations.
I know how they do that, save Beth for last stuff. I know how that works.
You were very patient today. Thank you. I think it's really exciting to see these changes and the evolution of our courses, because some of them were around back when I was there. I took acting when I was in 9th grade. Thank you so much. Okay, review Neola policy revision and consider moving to full board for adoption. All of these Neola policies. Do I need to read them all?
I make a motion to
Okay.
approve.
Yeah, I'll second that.
Okay, any questions? All in favor? Aye. That motion passes. These move to the full board. Announcements and updates. I just want to announce that PPC meetings are the first Monday of the month, unless there are some weird scheduling conflicts, and we'll always share that information with you. For our committee members, if you have any conflicts looking ahead, let's say we have 2 people who won't be in attendance in May, well, that's a problem, because we need to be able to make quorum. So just let us know, but generally speaking, that's what our timeline is for the rest of the year. And we work pretty hard in our planning session. We often are planning several months in advance and in the lineup for people to be able to be invited so they can be here. So thank you, everyone. Our next meeting is December, gosh, it seems really wrong to be talking about December 2nd, 4:30, and our agenda planning is next week, Monday, so if anyone needs to add anything or talk to us before that happens, let me know. But we look forward to seeing you all next month. Happy Thanksgiving. This meeting's adjourned.